Hello, friends, and welcome to Cornerstone Collective. My name is Jay, your host, and today with me is Angus McLeod.
Hey.
As well as Javan Brown.
Hello.
Today we want to jump right in this idea of the intersection of Christ and culture with this concept of our commitment to Christ. Looking at Matthew 7, it says, "So whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them, for this is the law and the prophets." Angus, what do you think, man? Golden rule.
Hard one to live by, a lot harder to parent with,
True.
There's always this, well, what about this, or she did this, or he did that, and it's like, wait a minute, so Jesus said do exactly like that. Oh, wait a minute,
Exactly.
So it's kind of hard to keep at the forefront of your mind sometimes, but it's definitely one that we need to have there.
Man, doing to others is a hard one. I know, like just preaching it the other day, like whenever you start delivering those lines and you're reading Jesus' words. Whenever you start reading those lines out loud, man, you just see the whole crowd start to pull back.
Yep.
As they start to apply it, I think, to their own life or maybe decisions or recent, activities that have happened. So, and same, you know what I mean? I'm not speaking to anybody else. I'm speaking to me and the collective together.
Yeah.
That's what we're a part of. So the Lord help us in all of that and our commitment to Christ and what that means and us being Christ followers and trying to be different in all that. Hey, can we segue into what just happened in between podcasts?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So real opportunity. This scripture was already here, but literally between podcasts, we were running and doing stuff. We're stacking today. So we have a couple things running. Javan ran and grabbed his sisters from school. Angus ran and grabbed some of his kids from school, and
As I'm getting ready to pick them up, I picked up what I thought was a fairly open parking space, but the woman behind me, she backed into me like she was the only vehicle in the West Valley. And so thankfully we have a friend here at the church who works on bumpers.
Yeah,
so
shout out Ralph.
So when there's something minor, it doesn't even faze me anymore, because not only does he do incredible work, but he's always faster and beats
fair price,
the body shops and all that stuff. So the thing is she hit me and then she started to drive off. So I thought she was gonna, because I had another experience this last weekend with same thing. So I'm chasing her and then she pulled into a spot. And I said, look, this is on private property, so the cops are going to come and watch this exchange information. Why don't we just do that? I'll contact my friend, and I'll let you know what he says. I'll give you the information. If you want to investigate it too, I said, I'm willing to do cash and go around insurance so that this isn't on your record for 5 years, so we can be done. And so we exchanged information and all that stuff. So
peaceably.
Yep. And it was a fine interaction. We shook hands and, I introduced myself and I said, sorry for this hiccup in our day. And let's, so it was, I said, sorry, we couldn't meet under better circumstances, so it was
good.
So they can be good. It's an opportunity to be there, because I would also hate for this interaction to come and then her to come across this podcast or wander into our church one day and go, hey, that guy was a real punk to me when we had an interaction. Yeah.
Definitely happened where I was super happy that I responded positively, because the person knew who I was. I did not know the person, and they knew me in context of being a pastor at a church, and I had the opportunity to respond and have an attitude. And thankfully I didn't. I chose to take a different route in the situation. And they were like, oh, Pastor Day was great.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
And they weren't the person I would have been upset at. It was somebody else, but it was one of these things where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm glad this worked out. I'm glad that I was doing the right thing I should have been doing.
Yeah.
Trying to treat others as I want to be treated. Javan, what do you think, man? You're around a bunch of college students, sometimes not always the most looking out for each other. How's that been?
No, it's been good. I mean, everybody just kind of tried to do their own thing, figure out their way through life. I haven't really come into much conflict. Most of the stuff that's like really big arguments that you think for like protests and things kind of happen peaceably. I think there was like a gathering in front of our honors college the other day, but nobody's really going like face to face about most of the stuff that we do. So it's not bad. So I haven't really been tested in that aspect recently, but I mean, maybe with friends, because we all just like belittle each other all the time, but I mean, that's
is that your love language?
Yeah, just words of affection. Yeah, sure.
Except not affection.
No, I know.
Words of sarcasm. Is that like an Arizona love language?
Basically, I
think
say.
that's the male love language.
Yeah, I think so too.
because if we don't toughen each other up, when the true trials of life come, you just get bulldozed over. So you got to get the calluses somewhere.
All right.
See, when it's your dad, then it just hurts. But when it's a friend, when it's a peer where you can shoot back, I think, these mutual calluses, and so you're thankful for that person that you can, sharpen the iron with.
Tell each other, stop being a Sally.
Exactly.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, it's interesting because, when we're trying to do the golden rule and treat others the way you want to be treated is difficult. I mean, obviously everyone knows this, especially if they're not treating you very nice, and it's hard to break the cycle.
Yeah.
We know what happens if you don't, then it just escalates, and everything escalates and it gets tighter in escalation. So for us to be able to break that path is really good. I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, and either fortunately or unfortunately, I find that the Lord typically uses Christians to be the ones to break that cycle, and so they're the ones who have to take the first step, oftentimes. Yeah. And be willing to lay down the branch of peace and apologize when maybe they don't feel like they were wrong, and so I think the Lord uses that as an opportunity in multiple ways.
It's good. If you're listening today, maybe that's you. Maybe you have something going on. Be the one that makes a decision to treat someone the way you want to be treated. Show them the love of Christ. Maybe turn the other cheek as far as like a shaming situation. Be the one that's there to give mercy, quick to forgive. And the Lord help us in all those things because He's done all those things for us. So, amen. Hey, talking about kind of Christ and culture, Bryce Crawford is a kind of a Christian influencer, if that's a thing, kind of on TikTok, Instagram, those kind of things, as well as YouTube, interacting with people in the street, talking about the love of God with people. He's actually showing this very thing, showing others the way you want to be treated, but also has a podcast and some other things. Javan, you've come across Bryce?
Yeah, a bunch.
What's been your impact from him?
I mean, he's super, super good at what he does. He's, I think, really the voice of this generation, kind of carrying forward what it really means to be an everyday Christian. I know a lot of people that not only go to this congregation, but go to churches like CCV or Radiant. They all watch him, all people my age. And like, he's just been a kind of like a huge role model for everybody in my generation of what it means to live out the love of Christ to people that otherwise wouldn't receive it, that people that are older might just look past, like a homeless man or somebody that like society casts as a reject, or like even like culturally, like he's had a bunch of people on his podcast. Like he's had like 6ix9ine. I know he's had like Togi. He's had like a ton of other people, and it's just great to see that he doesn't limit people based off of like what the media might say or based off of other people's impressions, but he thinks that everybody deserves a chance at the love of God, and I think that's incredible, and that's the kind of attitude that needs to be carried forward.
Absolutely. Angus, have you come across Bryce at all?
I haven't really, but I'm glad to hear about it because, I can look him up. I think that's important because for us who's in the generation that's about to hand off and that is currently handing off, I think that it's important to know how he's reaching your generation so that we can find a similar way that's our own of reaching out, so we can hit our pockets too.
Yeah, really good. Obviously, Bryce is a good-looking guy. He's got, his youth about him, and he's a sharp mind, and he hasn't ran into other things. He's kind of used that as a platform and been able to engage with people and share the love of Christ with people, which has been very cool to watch and to see. You kind of hit on it a little bit, Javan, but he actually has people on his podcast that they're not really Christ followers. They don't, many of them, like in the case of Toby's a fitness influencer. Is that fair to say?
I think it's Togi.
Is it Togi?
Yeah, I think it's Togi.
Okay, so
yeah.
He's like a fitness influencer. Guy's the size of a house, man. He's like big, broad shoulders. Good looking guy, like just built up. I've seen him actually on Iced Coffee Hour and some other like financial stuff too, because just them talking with him a different way. Yeah. Interesting guy. Yeah, kind of pushes the envelope for sure. Definitely controversial early doors. What's kind of in your takeaway? You've seen him in that fitness space?
He did do fitness content to start, and he was just like blasting roids for a long time.
Yeah, he's huge.
And because of it, he was just kind of like always having like mood swings initially. But then he got a sponsorship from Stake, and I think he exclusively streams on Kick, where you're like allowed to gamble on stream. So he's been doing that forever, and I think like I've seen him collaborate with a bunch of other people that are kind of in the similar space. Like TJR is a popular day trader. They'll do videos where they just like go out to casinos, spend like $50K, see if they can make anything, just like doing whatever. And I know Stake, I think essentially gives him unlimited money, and as long as if he wins anything, he can keep it, but if he like loses it all, then they'll just replenish it. Which is so it kind of gives like a distorted version of what gambling looks like. Gambling. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like you're basically just playing till you win is kind of how it works.
Right. So he's incentivated. The incentive is to actually keep going.
100%. Yeah. Just as long as he broadcasts it to other people. So
and a little bit of a bombastic personality, a little bit of over the top, kind of high reaction kind of guy.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but interesting to see. So Bryce had him on his podcast and started sharing with him, and he was just like, "Dude, I don't read the Bible. I have no intention of doing that. I'm atheist. I don't, I have no want to do these things." But Bryce just kept on showing him the love of Christ and essentially doing what we just talked about in treating him the one he wanted to be treated, even though he had pushback kind of a little bit. And you see the interaction that's there. Really cool to see how he has now come to faith from that conversation. It's kind of sparked something in him, and he went home and so was just texting Bryce some questions, and Bryce is like answering him in the middle of the night and just like back and forth, and gave him a Bible from my understanding, or like their connection there, explaining the Bible at least. Really cool, man. So now he's saying that he's become a Christ follower, and he's changing like his, you could see it in his countenance. It's pretty amazing. Did you get a chance to see any of that?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, like the transformation that I've been seeing in a bunch of these guys' lives, like for him and TJR, who's also like kind of walking out that journey of faith that he like publicly posts on Instagram kind of consistently about, just like his daily thoughts on like a verse or like a chapter that he'll read from the Bible. It's great to see that there's so much intrigue from these people that are spurred by Christian influencers like Bryce, who are doing God's work and just making it public.
Yeah.
And just seeing somebody their age kind of live that out continuously is like, I think, such a hallmarker for them, because it really lets them think, oh yeah, I'm able to do that as well, and I'm not alone on this journey. There's other people out there that can help be my support system through this discipleship process. So I think it's amazing. I'm pretty sure it will just continue to have a domino effect. I pray that it does, because we want to see as many people come to Christ as we can. So it's been great. It's been great to watch.
Powerful.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the people that we saw come to faith, this is kind of early doors now, probably 15, 20 years ago, was Brian Welch, which is known as Head. He's a guitarist for the band Korn. And for he kind of tells his own story about his conversion to Christ. And it's powerful, man, talking about how he's just like, God, if you're real, I need to get off these drugs. I think his thing was heroin or something like that. And they were like, he was multimillionaire, obviously super famous, touring all over the world in the rock band, playing guitar for a living. And just struggle bus, man. And he was like, if my daughter's going to have a dad, like I need to get off this junk. And he had a huge breakthrough with God and actually got connected to a local church right there in Bakersfield, which Bakersfield's kind of known for drugs and a bunch of crazy stuff, kind of in the, people jokingly say like Baco is like the armpit of California based on all the issues and stuff. Obviously it's good communities and people and everybody lives there too, but it's kind of season's been real rough. So that was definitely where those guys came out of, and that whole band came out of. So for a while, he quit the band, and then he re-engaged with the band, but still has been public with his faith, which is an interesting kind of dichotomy and tension for like kind of some of the influence of their songs, and then at the same time him playing. And then you've seen him play with like Holy Name and these other people where he's jumping in and using that. But he's been consistent. We were talking about the difference between somebody like maybe, Ye or Justin Bieber or other people where you kind of see them vacillate a little bit, and you've seen him be more consistent in his continual say, like, this is where I'm at with Christ and this is my walk, and being very transparent in that thing. And I think that's pretty powerful. Yeah. It's pretty cool. Have you got a chance to check him out at all?
Yeah, it's really moving. I love those redemption stories, and because we all have them, but to different and varying degrees. And it's really neat when, because the higher you get on the platform and stuff, the more isolated you become, and the harder it is, I think, sometimes for the gospel to naturally penetrate. So I think something like that, his redemption story, that there's somebody who is on their knees praying.
Yeah.
And made it possible for the Lord to break through and just the right thing, and even if that was just him getting to the point where he knew that at the end of himself that this was the answer. Yeah. I think that that's incredible, because then what it does is it shows all of the fans, look, this lifestyle and stuff, this is where it'll take you, and here's the alternative. And I think that when you see those authentic redemption stories being lived out where they talk about all of that stuff, I think it's very powerful, and it brings a lot of hope.
Yeah, that's true, man. That's absolutely true. I think it's one of the most powerful things you can see is when somebody starts to use they're just using their testimony to be such like a pivotal thing to encourage other people forward. One of my good friends, Tony, showed out to him. We were on drumline together, and one of the things that he did, we were still in high school, is he was big into that, big into obviously drumming and stuff like that, played drum set for a lot of things, really talented, super talented guy, still is today. But one of the things that he did was he went and got like a corn tattoo on his leg. And I was like, are you sure you want to get corn on your leg? You know what I mean? He was like, yeah, dude, yeah. And so it was like one of those things I was like, all right, like no worries. And so we were talking about that a little bit. So he went and got it. But so later, fast forward some years and us making different decisions. And I was like, now a youth pastor, I start hearing this story about Brian coming to faith. And, I'm like, dude, I sent it to T and I'm sharing that with him. And he was like, I don't know, man. That's like whatever. He quit the band. He was like really one of those, like that attitude, which you can understand. This is like this is a band he really likes. And so it was one of these things where I was like, yeah, I know, but his story is amazing. Like the reason is because he wanted life change, because is either that or he's going to be dead. So, an amazing thing for him to have that life change and send that on to him, and it's been amazing to see kind of Tony on his own journey in where he's been with God and looking towards God, which has been cool. The backside story of Brian Head Welch coming to faith was pretty cool. I actually went to school with a guy named Josh Vietti, who actually his dad is the lead pastor at a church in Baco. That's the church that Brian walked into.
Wow.
And so Josh was the one that met with them and actually was able to pray with them. So it's pretty crazy. Like a guy I went to college with who was a ministry major and went back, was like a youth director or like creative pastor or something. He's the one that ended up being able to be that connection point for Brian at the time.
Wow.
And so he was tied into their community of faith, and they're not like a rocker community, or they're like a church, you know what I mean? Like a good church, a big sized church, and just be able to connect with them and have that really some cool moments and sharing his personal faith with somebody. So I was like, man, this is pretty cool, man. It's like, God will use whoever's willing.
Well, I was just thinking about that. It's kind of a cool thought to think that you can be a part of somebody else's ripple effect.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because that conversation could have happened with anybody, but the Lord had you right there at that time for that interaction, and you were at that epicenter of the life change, and now you get to watch so you got a front row seat at that, and you get to watch all of the change that comes out from that. That's just really neat to me.
Yeah, it was crazy. I know for a fact, like at that era, this is like the mid-aughts, so somewhere 06, 07, or somewhere in that range. So I was a youth pastor here at Cornerstone at the time, and I knew Josh from a distance, and so I was like, reached out to him. I was like, dude, this is a wild story. He was like, they ended up on national news, like, because it was like, oh, this guy who's like a rocker goes to church and it has this moment. So especially the local stuff, but then more even the national kind of had a little blip,
Mm-hmm.
And so really interesting. They kind of did a play on it there at the church, which was really funny, where it's like, like their pastors who are clearly like middle-aged white dudes who are not those guys, or all like wearing rock and roll clothes and stuff. They're like, no, it's not having an impact on us at all here at the church. We're definitely just being our true selves. And they're like completely dressed as rockers and just like playing into the fact it's like, listen, this guy coming into faith does not have any effect on us. Like, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
So, but I thought it was pretty cool as far as that goes. Hey, one of the people that we talked about recently was Matthew McConaughey. He actually came out with a new book, and it's some poems and prayers that he says that are there kind of in his book. And he's been out kind of talking about all the different elements of that and looking at what different pieces are. And one of the things he was on was a show called The Breakfast Club. And it's mostly like a hip hop kind of show and some other things, but they have a lot of different people on there. And they started asking him about it. And he was like, man, well, what do you kind of Charlemagne, who's the host, is like, man, what are you praying for? I mean, you have you have the Oscar, you have the trophies, you have the success, you've been all these things. And I love McConaughey. His response was like, I'm not praying for any of that. Like, I'm praying to be a good man. I'm praying to be a good father. Like, he's praying for his family. And I love that. He's like, all that other stuff that's not what I'm praying for.
Yeah.
We work with excellence towards those things, but that's not what we pray for. What we pray for is these things that really matter. And it was really cool to see him reset like the thing that everybody else is clamoring for, and the trophies and the awards. And he's like, nah. So, Javen, you get a chance to see that at all?
I have not, no. But that's super cool for Matthew McConaughey, who, as you said before, has been like such a big figure within acting and just within like the space of television and film and cinema. So to have somebody come out and say something like that is definitely against the norm. And I think it really challenges a lot of people to really think about what they're living their life toward. So I think anything that kind of helps guide people towards that path and putting their faith and trust in God is wonderful.
Yeah, same. I don't know exactly where he's at in his relationship with God, but to think with that perspective was a very healthy way to think about things and even prayer life. So pretty good. Angus, what do you think?
Well, one of the things that he said in relation to that, or as follow up to it, is he said, it's not that he's got that stuff and now he doesn't pray for it. He said, I haven't prayed for that stuff. He said, because I feel that would cheapen the prayers.
Right.
He said, that's not what prayer is for. He said, so I've never prayed for those things. And so that's what I thought just was added to it, was the fact that it's not from a place of having arrived at a certain level that now he can stop praying for that and start praying for his family.
Right, exactly right. Yeah.
But the other thing too is I've seen a lot of different interviews and podcasts and things that he's done. He's got just some very common sense, fatherly advice, how to be a man, just things like that have been deteriorating over the last couple of generations in our culture, that if we can get our men to grasp some of these things along with the biblical principles that motivate them, man, we'll be the country that we once were.
Yeah, men who taking their responsibilities and doing those with excellence and caring for their family and leading in that way. Amen. One of the things that's amazing is how we see all these findings in science that are reinforcing what we read out of Scripture. One of those is the spark of life, which recent MIT researchers, they recorded these swirls that are happening at the moment of conception, which is a powerful thing. It's something that we value. We've talked about before here, how we value human life from conception. And so we're against any kind of form of any kind of thing that would take away from life in that way. And so looking at that, it's pretty amazing to see these guys. And it's something dynamic. You guys got a chance to see it?
Yes, I have.
What'd you think, man?
I've seen it before, and it's incredible because when you call it the spark of life, that is exactly what happens. It's something that you can actually monitor and visibly see,
right?
And it's just incredible. And so when you have an understanding and an appreciation for life, man, it makes it more incredible.
Yeah, absolutely powerful, and is very strange to see somebody like MIT coming out with that concept, and kind of the labeling, even from the people that were putting out those articles, was that direction, which is normally not where they're going. They normally wouldn't make this be such a big piece. So, Javan, you taking a look at that at all?
Yeah, I've seen kind of as what you're talking about at the moment of conception, there's like a really bright light that happens.
Mm-hmm.
I think once again, it's just all confirmation of stuff that we've seen in the Scripture. It also kind of mirrors the perspective that most scientists take on like a Big Bang, where like with the inception of let there be light, you just have this really bright flash of light that nobody can scientifically pinpoint as to where it came from or why it happened or when it even happened. And I think that's kind of mirrored within the creation of a soul, which is what you see within that moment of conception that's then kind of almost metaphysically infused into the body, which is really cool. So I think as we just continue to advance in our scientific and technological understanding of how to look for things like that, we'll just get more confirmation.
Yeah, absolutely. Powerful, really powerful. Hey, one of the things that we've seen recently has been viral again is kind of instantaneous answers to prayer, both as an answer to slanderous things about God as well as other things. I don't know if you guys have seen some of these, but one of the ones I'd seen was, people who are like, God can judge me if I'm wrong in this situation, and then like literally the background falling and hitting the person that's speaking at the platform. You guys see this?
Yeah.
Pretty crazy. Also, one of the recent ones is pretty crazy. There's a street preacher that's out there. He's talking to this guy. Hey, God loves you. Jesus loves you. He has a plan and a purpose for you. This guy's like, God, he's not real. He's like, listen, man, Jesus loves you. I have no intention of harm towards you. He's like, Jesus ain't gonna help you. Out of nowhere, this dude who's skateboarding in the background just runs up and whacks the guy with a skateboard, which we're not in favor of that. But it was so instantaneous, and people would say like instant karma is the thing they say online. But obviously, from a faith perspective, that's not what we're saying. But it was so instantaneous, like, oh, here's the judgment where Jesus ain't gonna help you. Well, guess what? There's a scary man behind you with a skateboard that's coming. It was crazy. Did you guys get a chance to see those?
I did, and if you happen to search for the video, just be aware there is some language in it.
Probably is language.
So the guy is using quite a bit. I mean, he's using aggressive language towards the street preacher, and he's keeping his cool, and he's just like, "I love you," and he starts rebuking the demons, and the guy comes out and just cold clocks him and starts telling him to get.
Yeah.
And
with colorful language also.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, mute it. Mute the video if you're looking for the video.
But it was one of those things that I thought, well, angels can look like anything.
That's right. It's a dude skateboarding a rail illegally at a park.
Yeah, he just came out of nowhere.
It's crazy, man. Yeah, they look like they're in front of like a big bank or some jazz like that, and there's obviously some rails in the background. These guys are skating. So
yeah.
So crazy. Jay, haven't you seen any of these like kind of instant ramification kind of things?
I have before. I've seen, there was like a woman who was on stage. I think she was doing like a comedy routine, and then she was like, "Oh, I guess I'm God's favorite," like in like a sarcastic way, and then she, I think, had a heart attack on stage. It just like fell down. And then the audience was super confused. They thought it was like part of the
she
bit.
She did it like an act out,
and then she just wasn't moving for like minutes, and people were like,
we should call somebody. Yeah.
Same for that, and then also for some of the stuff that was happening with, I think it was like Iranian leaders whenever they were talking about profession against like how they want to eradicate Israel or something like that, and then the dude just has a heart attack. Didn't he die? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So pretty wild. Just stuff like that. It's like instantaneous judgment on ill wishes towards God's plan. So
yeah, it's pretty wild, man. We're instructed to watch what we say anyway. That's where we're trying to watch our mouths and be those people who are speaking life and not death. And so it's so much easier to be critical and to say stuff like that than to try to build up. And so we just got to watch it. But man, doesn't mean that ramifications won't come if you start mouthing off in the wrong way.
Right, but it also shows that you can approach, from a place of authority that doesn't involve yelling and swearing and all of that stuff. That you can stand on the authority that the Lord gives you in the situations.
I love that. There's a kind of a viral YouTuber that was out there, and this guy, I can't tell if he did a collab with him. I think it's just a supercut of it, but it's a thing where they're rolling up in LA and kind of in Los Angeles and some of these big cities. They will have people dressed as characters. So the characters are like they're a Temu version of like Disney characters or superheroes, because they can't be super close because then they would get in trouble. Mm-hmm. But they're out there wearing like this big character outfit, and the idea is that you want a picture with them, you're going to give them $5, $10, $20, whatever it is. And so this guy rolls by, and he throws water balloons at these people on the road. Now I'm assuming they're in on this because it's a skit.
Yeah.
And so, but he's like, go, 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 go. And then the guy just stops and then doesn't go. And so they pull him out of the window and they like beat him down or whatever. But the funny thing, the cut I saw was a guy who's like, "Hey, are you somebody who needs to forgive others?" Like, it's just cutting to him and cutting back to the guy getting beat up and cutting back to him. I don't know, it was hilarious. I was like, that's very funny. Talking about like right away, have you ever struggled to forgive someone? I was like, yep, there you go. You guys get a chance to see any of those?
I did see that. It was very funny. I love how creative people are getting to hook people into to giving an actual message.
Oh yeah.
Because it is comical, but at the same time you can get to a real point. So I love that creativity.
Yeah, very interesting. That's for sure. The creativity on that side. Jamie, you seen any of those, like those cutaways like that?
Yeah, I've seen that, and then I've also seen, I think they do some at like drive-throughs and things like that, where essentially they set up for a gag, and then they like finish the gag at the what's it called, at like the pickup window, and then they'll be like drive, and then they don't drive. Yeah.
So there's ramifications right away.
Yeah, exactly. So it's pretty funny based off what I've seen.
I like that. That's pretty fun. Hey, one of the things that we've seen, which we've talked about here before, was just how prolific the Bible is, especially as being one of the most important thing to us as Christ followers, but one of the most important books in general printed out there. So I thought I'd give you guys a quiz and see what you guys thought as far as the most popular book. I will give you this. The Bible is the most popular book. According to this, how many copies of the book do you think have been printed? Interesting. I was surprised. This is lower than I thought.
When are they taking data from?
I'm not quite sure. It was kind of given a rundown of the piece. Let me see. It's saying the various sources based on estimated sales. So it's going to be more than just, this is going to be recent sales numbers versus like probably in the modern era, I would say, probably from when they started tracking sales in the 50s, 1950s.
Probably, because I was going to
70 years probably.
Yeah.
Because before that, it was, it'd be really hard to track.
Is this just in the U.S.?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So the Bible's number one, but how many copies do you think they'll give you kind of a number? Once you kind of hear, you'll hear the rest of the ones.
1.5 billion.
Okay, now it's much, much lower according to this.
Yeah, I'd go physical Bibles. I go like 65 million.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. No, this is in millions. So it is more than that. It is way more than 1.5 billion because this is in millions. So it is 7,125,000,000 is according to this.
Wow.
How many it's been? So it's 7,125 million. So 7 billion.
Wow.
Pretty crazy. The next one in order according to this, that's most popular copies sold or printed. Sorry, copies printed. What do you think it'd be?
King James.
No, because that'd still be considered part of the Bible, I think.
Oh. Sorcerer's Stone.
No, think more of religious texts.
Oh, I'm sorry. Say the question again.
It's the next most copies printed. Of any book.
The Quran.
It is. What do you think the number's at?
Probably half that. Or
pretty close.
Like 3.5 bill, something like that.
3 billion. According to this. So the next one in row. This is not necessarily religious, but definitely a powerful book according to the people that it would need to read it. What do you think the next book is? Just as a caveat, they don't have anything written by a German man in the 1940s, so that's not on the list. Just as an FYI. So, what do you think the next one is? Jump in when you guys are ready. No idea?
No, I have no clue.
Okay, the next one is quotations from Chairman Mao.
Okay.
And they say 912 million copies have been done. Okay. Which makes sense because I'm sure that everybody there probably needs to read it or teach it or whatever however that works. The next one is a famous story that you guys will have read before. It has a Spanish title. At home. Do you guys know where it's at? I need some whole music.
The only thing I can think of is Casablanca, but that's like a movie.
It's a movie?
So,
You've done tons of literary stuff.
Yeah, but in Spanish, not really.
Well, no, I mean, it's a famous, it's English, it's an English book, but it has the Spanish title.
So I did more composition, so I didn't read a lot of the classics that most people read.
Okay,
so
got it.
I don't know that I did read it.
The next one here at number 4 on the list, they said is Don Quixote.
Never read it.
Okay, so they said it's 523 million is the next one. All right, number 5. Give you a hint. It's Charles Dickens. Which book do you think?
A Christmas Story.
Nope.
Tale of Two Cities.
Tale of Two Cities. How many million do you think it has?
300.
207, according to this. Okay. The next one is a famous book. It has a French title as well as an English title. You've had it printed in both. Very famous.
French title. French title.
At home, are you guessing? You guys probably have it by now.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
No, I ain't got it either.
The Little Prince.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that big. That's cool.
203 million.
Yeah.
All right, the next one, another religious text. Local to us here. You guys, there's some people we know that have this book. Lots of this book being printed, especially in Utah.
The Book of Mormon.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
So Joe Smith, his Book of Mormon. So he says there's 202 million copies have been printed. That's a grip. That's a lot.
Yeah.
All right, the next one is a very famous book. Movies have been made about it.
The Da Vinci Code?
No, not a bad guess. Think older.
Older.
Ooh, how about your family's favorite movie? I think that's what it is. Or close to it.
Got lots of favorite movies.
It's a pretty good one. Is
it like a classical book?
Guy's a Christian. Christian author.
That'd be a lot of people.
Lord of the Rings?
Lord of the Rings is correct. 158 million copies.
Okay.
Lord of the Rings. Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
All right, the next one you guys might not catch, so I'll just throw it out there to us. Number 9 they have on the list is The Alchemist, which is 153 million done. The next one, very popular writing, current era.
Sorcerer's Stone.
It is the Philosopher's or Sorcerer's Stone. Yeah, depending on here it was Sorcerer. I think in the UK it's Philosophers. So J.K. Rowling, how many copies do you think?
What was Alchemist at? 115.
It was at 153.
Okay, then this is probably at like
104.
Okay.
114.
145.
Oh, okay. That's
barely
that's
edging
right
it out. And that Alchemist is a much older book, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
wow.
JK, man, she's knocking it out of the park. I bet she has a couple nickels, if I had to guess.
Oh yeah.
Based in this is one of her books, and there are many in her saga. All right, another famous one. Coming in at number 11 with 117 million. It's about a young lady on an adventure.
A young lady on an adventure.
Do.
The Little Princess.
I'm not sure that's a thing. Alice in Wonderland from Lewis Carroll at number 11. Not too bad. I don't know if you guys would get this. This next one is And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, which is like a lot of those murder mystery type books, real famous, especially back in the day. It's what spawned all the murder mystery stuff, was like kind of that and Perrault and all these other like characters that are written about. 115 million on that.
That's good.
The Dream of the Red Chamber. This is a Chinese book. 113 million is next at 13. After that is 14. Already been on the list. What do you think the book is? So from another author already been on the list.
The Hobbit.
The Hobbit. Very good. Yeah. How many million do you think it has?
94.
Okay. 109 million. Not bad at number 14. The next one, another Christian author, different series.
Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe.
That is correct, by Mr.
C.S. Lewis.
C.S. Lewis. Very good. 90 million copies.
Yeah. That's
90 million. All right, the next one is by another book by already on the list. The author's already been on the list. What do you think this one is? Number 16.
Already on the list.
Christmas Carol.
No, that's not bad though. I mean, this is another one of those kind of like the other books are on the list as well, so that's why you would see it here. I'll give you to narrow down. This one's another one by J.K. Rowling. Which one do you think it is?
Half-Blood Prince.
Nope. Angus, guess?
I don't know any of the books, really.
That's no worries. It's the Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah. Okay.
So Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, 84 million.
Wow.
So based on that and her other book just based at 145 million, J.K. Rowling has a few nickels. Yeah. That's what we understand. Yeah. Okay. So, especially in the modern era.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the next one is by Hoggard. It says 83 million. It's She and a History of Adventure. I don't know that book. Must be one of those. You guessed this one already. Dan Brown. Da Vinci Code. 80 million.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
That's a lot. That's surprising, especially in the common era, man, because there's so many people. It's like way more authors, way more prolific.
Yeah.
To have a book break through like that is really significant, especially not a one that's focused at junior readers, you know, or like kind of that emergent 100%. Kind of thing, which is kind of where, you know, fantasy and those other pieces kind of target more of that preteen to teen to young adult kind of vein. So very interesting.
Yeah.
Next one, our good friend J.K. Rowling, back on the list.
Wow.
73 million. This one is HP and which one do you think it is?
Goblet of Fire.
That is the next one on the list. This one is Prisoner of Azkaban. Okay, so the third 73 million. Yeah. The next one on the list after that is number 20. That's HP and the Goblet of Fire coming in at 70 million.
That's not bad.
Following that, another one by J.K. Rowling. She is knocking it out of the park. HP and
I forget what 5 is, dude.
The Order
of Secret, or no, not Order of Secret. Order of the Stone
of the.
I don't know.
Phoenix, Arizona. That's right, exactly. So that's where it's at 69 million. After that is Half-Blood Prince. She's still on the list. Friends. Yeah. She had like 2, and then after that is Deathly Hallows, and finally J.D. Salinger's famous
Catcher in the Rye.
Catcher in the Rye at 66 million. So that is a ton of books with the most copied.
Wow.
And the Bible tops them all. And so pretty amazing. So whenever people talk about, is it something that you can use for your life today? Yes, it is, because it's more popular than all of these other books. And so pretty amazing, powerful thing, an interesting thing is all of our reader bugs out there, those who love Barnes and Noble, those who, are sad about Borders and the other things that have happened in the past. So I'm definitely a person who loves paper books. You guys like reading?
More so now, but I've found that I get too distracted by just sitting and reading a paper book. So what I find to be the most effective is if I have a paper book, but also listen to it with audio. But the other thing is I'm kinetic. So if I'm listening to it while I'm doing something else, I absorb a lot better than just sitting there looking at a book.
Oh, okay. That's cool. At least you know that about yourself. I know you do a lot of audiobooks, so that makes sense. Javan, what about you, man?
I mean, I used to really, really enjoy reading. And I pretty much kind of stopped reading for my own leisure at some point. I think I just got so wrapped up in love of cinematography that I just can't disconnect from, I don't know, a story being told in that manner. But I mean, I can read. It's not like it's you can read. I'm not saying I'm illiterate, but I'm saying if you need me to sit down and do something, or if it's a life-changing book, yeah, I'll sit down and read it. But besides that, not really. Not unless it's for a class or work or some course.
I've given you a bunch of books that have not hit your reading platform yet.
No, but
it's Think and Grow Rich, a bunch of other stuff that I'm hey man, read this Tipping Point, read these different tribes, read Start with Why, all these different books that I'm trying to give them a copy of. But I get it, man. When you're in school, it's hard. I'm in school right now. I have a crazy amount of reading I have to do every single week. I was cranking stuff out last night, trying to reread things that I had forgot from the previous week from reading. And so you're just trying to get it out. So it's hard to get double down and get another book in whenever you're doing that. So it's just man, one of those things that we do enjoy and definitely value, but you gotta have some margin, gotta figure it out. So, hey, last thing that's part of this part of what we're talking about today is we've seen a lot of things happening on social media where people are, especially on TikTok and YouTube, Instagram, where people are actually going and praying for people in public. And I recently saw a young guy, Hispanic guy. He is talking to these young guys and talking to them about their faith, talking about freedom. And the young guys are talking to are nah, man, we do we actually go and get our answers from witchcraft. They're just very just about it, which is it happens in Mexican culture quite a bit. There's an interesting mix with people that have a Catholic background will go to a witch or to someone that's like that and ask for blessing or for incantation or for whatever is going on. And it was really interesting to see this guy who he's obviously a Christ follower. He's no, man, how are you going to fight the devil with the devil? He's no, I have to go to this other guy because my grandma, she does this other stuff on me, or this other guy was doing stuff against me because he didn't like me. So I had to go to my grandma who she's one. And you're the guy's no, man, you don't use the devil to fight the devil. That's not how this works, which is right out of scripture, obviously. Mm-hmm. And so the guy, his friends started clowning on him, which is really interesting. Yeah, man, you can't do that. And he's hey, do you want me to pray for you right now? He's I don't know, man. And the guy's what if I start shaking? He knows what's going on. He knows the spiritual side of the real physical, when you have some spirits in you or on you, what that would look like. And the guy's man, we want to pray that you be free of the spirit of death, which is the Santa Muerte. And so he starts praying over him. And the guy's yeah, I want you to pray this out loud. He starts praying against the spirit of Santa Muerte and praying the power of Jesus Christ and saying the words. As he starts to, man, starts spitting, coughing up, having these convulsions, all this stuff. Man, crazy. Yeah. That the spiritual side of the stuff just starts coming out. His friends start freaking out. You know what I mean? They're seeing the real deal. And it finalizes the clip with the guy that day in the same clothes. They're go to the water, and he baptizes him right there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's a powerful thing. So I was man, what a cool thing to see people just taking it to the street. And they're hey, we're going to interact right here, man, whatever's going on. But the real spiritual side of things that are underneath the cover, we were talking about previously on a podcast. Javen, you've seen a little bit of that kind of stuff. What do you think about this, man?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's right out of what we see that Christ does in the New Testament is actually cast out demons and cast out spirits. So the fact that people are still willing to go out and do that, even in today's world where everybody's so socially disconnected and consumed by the idea that there really is no spiritual world, at least within Western culture, it's really important to not only educate people on the reality that there is a genuine demonic presence in some areas, and there really is a spiritual warfare that's constantly happening during every stage of your life, but also to actively work against that and to recognize when we see people encountering spiritual warfare, and pray for them and truly try to cast out demons in that way. So shout out to whoever that guy is, because he's doing God's work. So that's amazing.
Powerful, very powerful. Angus, what do you think, man?
I think it's incredible. I love that it's starting to be demystified in culture, that this is very real, and it's the thing, and it's the part of this journey that we don't necessarily always get to see in America, but is very much a part of reality around the world.
That's right.
Because the spiritual realm is far more active, and as we progress in time, we're going to see more, not less. And so it's important. I mean, when the Lord said that everybody who comes after, greater things will you do than I did.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he didn't say some of you.
Right.
That was a general statement. And so it's kind of an expectation. And so there has to be those who are first, who kind of set the tone and allow people to get comfortable with it. But the reality is we should all be preparing to have those kinds of experiences, because if we're prepared, the Lord will bring people to you. And you can be a part of that story, and you can see firsthand. And what that does is it makes this very real to you.
Yep.
And I think that's what's missing so much, especially in the church in America, is there's no risk to it for a lot of people. And when you start facing the spiritual side,
yes,
when you start seeing there really is an adversary, and not that you're looking for a fight, but the adversary is,
right, you
better be ready to not only stand your ground, but take ground.
Know who you are in Jesus.
Exactly.
With authority. Yeah.
Exactly. And hopefully we'll begin to see more and more of this as people realize I'm not prepared for this.
Right.
And they start to search and become equipped. I mean,
right.
That's the sword of the Spirit. That's why we're given an armor. It's not so that we could go and hide in our shelters
right.
and in our churches. It's so that we can come and get our marching orders, be equipped, and go out and fight the battle.
Yeah, spiritually.
To take ground for the kingdom.
It's really good, man. Obviously we've seen that and believed that and seen it for a very long time. Even when I was a young guy, man, we saw crazy manifestation of spiritual entities and things like that, and demons, and man, it's just scary. I mean, we saw people who were wrapped in witchcraft, and I, as a young guy, I saw my dad was doing counseling with a young girl who she had a spiritual entity, like a demon or something going on with her. She was, man, maybe 100 pounds, not even. And they were doing a seance type thing with a Ouija board, and like a thing that Milton Bradley will print out as like a game, but they were using it as a tool to enter in with spirit realm. And she had this thing that came on her and was in her, and it was a bad deal. So her friends brought her to my dad. He's praying, and they are freaking out, dude. She's picking up stuff and throwing it like she's super strong, and she was like skinny young girl. She wasn't even she was probably a teenager at the time. I was younger. I was like probably 7-8 years younger than these teenagers, and it was wild, man. I was like watching like through the window, like this is crazy, Wow. Essentially, like I dipped out, man. I got afraid, but we saw it later, a lot, especially in Latin America, as we interacted on a lot of mission trips in Asia, other places like that. When I lived in Mexico, actually, was pretty significant. We were there church planting and working with people down in the barrio with like. In the community with people, and had people we ran across, man, that they were like, they had that all over them. Like they were just like very much like locked in, and it wasn't the person, it was something inside them that was tracking. You're like, this is not right. This is no good, man.
It was, so we experienced that in Nepal quite a bit did. As we were driving down. I mean, there are so many people, just countless people, shoulder to shoulder, and you're in a vehicle that just had another vehicle that passed with 45 people in it.
For sure.
And there will be people 6 rows deep from the van, and they will lock eyes with you, and they'll just follow you they'll stop whatever they were doing, and they'll lock eyes with you until you've passed them. It's wild, because exactly that.
Spirit.
You know that it's like, because nobody else in the 20 people around them are making that same kind of eye contact.
And not just glancing up like, oh, there's some foreigners or something like that. It wasn't that reason. No, it was like spiritual. You down. Yeah, absolutely. And really crazy to think about. From our perspective. Now, we know, because we belong to Christ, and as children of God, we know that we have authority to stand against the enemy. It says that we would be prepared to do so. That's what Angus was alluding to, and putting on the spiritual armor of God. And it says to do that, to prepare yourself, it's protecting your mind, protecting your heart before God, protecting the truth that you share, being those who walk in the peace of God and seeing those things happen, and then taking the fight to him with the word of God, which is there. And so it's our faith is what protects us from the attack of the enemy, and then the word of God to be an attack against him. And so that's what this guy was doing. He's taking the word of God and just using it and professing it over this guy's life. And man, it was powerful to see the freedom that he experienced.
Yeah.
It was super cool.
Yeah.
We've seen the same. We had people in our own church who later became pastors, we saw, a woman who had 8 or 9 different things inside of her, like crazy stuff happening, writhing on the floor. It's stuff that you're like, what is this? And I have friends who are pastors in different veins of things who haven't encountered this, who don't believe that it's real. And it's like, man, you need to get out there. You need to see what's happening. You'd be surprised that the stuff that's in the New Testament still happening right now. Same enemy, same fight in the spirit realm. Now, we're not talking about flesh and blood. We're not talking about fighting physicality. We're talking about in the spirit realm. And so, really powerful, huge thing.
Yeah, and I believe that we're going to start seeing more, not less of that. As things progress, and as the veil just kind of comes down, and as evil doesn't hide itself as much anymore, they're going to take on. What they say in Nepal and stuff is that the demons here wear tuxedos. They don't have to hide themselves in other parts of the world.
Right.
But there's going to be a point where they take off their tuxedos and we get to experience what the rest of the world does, but we're going to be way underprepared, right? Because the rest of the world, they know that their only hope for survival is prayer.
Right.
And if we don't catch that before it's too late, then there's going to be a lot of people who are in a really bad way.
Absolutely. On that, we don't have it in our notes here, but I'll say this. A lot of people ask me often, about these things. And obviously, usually it's about living for Christ and it's about daily things and walking through issues. But occasionally I'll get into conversations with people that are asking me things about things like aliens and other worlds and all this stuff. And I said, listen, we have a creator God who's more than capable to create whatever he wanted in any place. So it is possible that there be other things out there. I'm not against that concept. Obviously, I believe that God can do what he wants. But as far in context to us, I think it's far more likely that these people who've said that they've had an alien encounter or something else they've had a spirit realm encounter is what they've really had. They've interacted with a spirit entity and had some kind of a thing where that's been their experience. And so I think if they really understood the depth of what that is, I feel like that's really what a lot of this stuff is happening. And I think it becomes more prolific. That is what people are going to be encountering actually, is the spirit realm, not some kind of like far off people that got here in a disc. So it would be really interesting to see as things progress, how that becomes unveiled to us as a society and what that looks like. Javen, what do you think, man? You've seen a little bit of that and people talking about spirit realm versus aliens.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of to your point, I think that's definitely true. And it's also another way to interpret things like psychedelics or people on drugs all the time is like people in that kind of translucent state are really, really confused and they report seeing like a whole bunch of random things that happen. But in reality, I mean, like from the perspective of the enemy, if somebody's at their weakest, like in terms of mentally, that would make the most sense to like attack them or at least to like show them something that they can't possibly comprehend or understand or they have no power over within that direct moment, at least within their own mind. So it definitely, I think like spiritually, we have probably at least had some interaction with it within Western culture. We just see it in way different forms. Mm-hmm. And we don't typically recognize what that looks like until you get people like with the night vision goggles that we were talking about in a few podcasts before that are looking through these lenses and they're like, wait, is that a ghost or is that
spirit
like
realm?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's more likely that it's probably like a demon or it's probably like just some other being entirely. So
yeah, we talked about, I think, earlier on how people are selling some land out here west of us in Phoenix Metro out in Buckeye. And the guy was like, yeah, this is whatever acres of land. So he's kind of like, a lot of town has grown up around him and he's got a big pocket right there. There's acres of land here and it's good. And they're like, and what's unique about this property? He's like, well, we have a portal. We have a portal out here in the front. We got one in the back to aliens and they show up and walk around. I'm like, oh, you got a bunch of spirit stuff going on in your place, man.
Yeah.
I don't think this is aliens showing up at your house in Buckeye.
Oh, no.
So
yeah,
some different spirit realm things.
Yeah. So I've had this conversation with a lot of people because initially I was like, I don't know what to think or what to say. So I looked and started to search. And once you search a few things and have a few conversations, your algorithm starts to populate.
Yeah.
Sure. And so There's all those people, but what we're concerned with as Christians is how does it affect us, right? So I've seen a lot of testimonials from pastors and people who've had experiences in all of this, and the common thread that I find is it's all about open doors. So most of the time, these visitations, these encounters and all that stuff, it happens as a result of somebody wanting it to happen. They're seeking it out. Well, the enemy is the deceiver and has been the deceiver since the beginning. So it's not a far stretch that a demon would pretend to be something else.
Yeah, like an alien.
Right?
Yeah.
And because he understands packaging.
Sure.
Right? So you can give venom in the form of a snake or a scorpion or a bird. Right. It doesn't change that it's still venom. So you can package the demon however you want. And if it comes across as a far more intelligent being, we're more likely to accept the knowledge and things that we see coming from that. But in those cases, also what they say is that when these people are having these encounters and stuff, it's far more frightening than they thought. So we know it's not of the Lord because he does not give us a spirit of fear. But in those times when they're having these encounters, at the mention of the name of Jesus, it stops.
Gone. Yeah.
And things go away. And when they close those doors and when they turn from that and they are no longer seeking it, those encounters stop.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly what I've seen as well, and we see that consistently. So if you're out there and you're wondering about this and that and the thing to go after is Jesus. Because the spirit realm is real. We definitely have seen it. We've seen it interact with us in this realm where we're at. And if you want freedom, it's found in Jesus. And, we see in scripture where it talks about, there were those who went along and they were trying to use the power of God without being a believer. And so they're trying to use the power in the name of Jesus. And essentially the spiritual entities are like, we don't know you. Yeah. It's like, we know Jesus. We know Paul. we know these guys. It's like, we don't know you. And so they get attacked, and it's like a situation where it's like, hey, we know Peter, we know Paul, these guys are following Jesus. We don't know you, man. So what's going on with this situation here? And that's a real thing.
It's like picking up the gun but having no ammunition in it.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly right.
You can point it all day long.
So the Lord help us to stand according to him and with him in the power of Christ. Amen. Next thing we want to talk about is creativity. We've been looking at these different things that are happening in technology and different pieces that are there, different creative ideas. Google recently launched a new learning guide through Gemini AI, which we use Gemini AI to do some video stuff here and different pieces, one of the AI pieces that we use. But man, a guided learning with AI. We've talked about it coming. Now it's here. It's arriving, man. What would you have AI help you teach or teach you?
Teach me?
Yeah. What would you want to learn from AI? Anything that's skill set you're like, hey, these guys could help me? The AI? Or you're like, nope.
I mean, what I really want to learn is welding, and at this point, that's more still learning from a human.
Physical, yeah, that's true. Nothing that comes to the dome?
Maybe help with investing.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Some wealth creation.
Show you what the candles mean on the stock portfolio. Javen, what do you think, man?
For me, it would probably just be mostly STEM related things, like for it to teach me like something related to calculus, physics. It can also explain like chemistry and biology decently well. I think when you start to get into stuff like literature or religion, it kind of gets a little dicey because it's pulling from all these different sources. Right. So it's taking from people that are like actually a part of the religion, and it's also taking from sources that are like critical of the religion. Yeah, totally. Because like sometimes I've like been in just the ChatGPT portal and I'll ask it a question about like the difference between this doctrine and like Catholicism versus like Orthodoxy versus like Protestantism, and then it'll break it down for me. But you also see that it's not like kind of consistent with the way that it's taught within church or something like that. So you kind of like start to question.
So it's jaded. It's coming across with a perspective.
A little bit, but I think like as far as math, you're just talking pure objective things, and they can't really get that wrong unless for like rounding purposes. I've seen it get things wrong, but like as far as like a holistic approach, it'll teach you how to do it pretty well. So.
It's all pi is 3.1. You're like, wait a minute.
until AI can spell strawberry, I don't necessarily. Did you see that video?
I've seen some of those. Yeah.
There's a video where the guy is trying to get AI to spell strawberry, and it says he asks how many R's there are, and it says 2. There are 2 R's in strawberry, and so he walks it through. He says spell straw, spelled berry, and then he puts them together, and it's almost a minute and a half, 2 minutes where he's trying to walk it through.
It won't do the third.
It still won't admit to the fact that there's 3 R's in strawberry.
That's super crazy, man. Yeah, interesting. AI it's just changing so rapidly in our current culture that it's like one of those things that it's kind of fun to see what's going to happen. At the same time, a little bit trepidatious, a little bit scary, a little bit, you walk kind of bolt into that like, okay, what job is going next week? Yeah. And what skill set do we need to learn in order to make this thing operate? So they went along the lines of something progressing and getting better and the creativity to do it. Some of the studies they've been doing is just about our normal habits. We've been talking about habits and patterns and things like that. They say live longer through these things. They say that strong friendships help you have a 50% higher survival rate. I think that makes sense to me.
Makes sense to me.
How about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we're social creatures, so.
Absolutely. I think without it, it'd be such a hard thing. It's like, man, if you're just alone, like you could see why you just wouldn't survive as long. You don't have anything to live for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So definitely be something around us. Another one they say is 60 minutes of strength training a week, will have a 20% lower mortality rate for you. So by 20%, that's not bad, man.
No. Yeah.
Just by getting in an hour of strength training. So you got to do push-ups and don't skip leg day.
Yeah.
Go after it.
Absolutely. I mean, those things, it's kind of like physical compound returns. Mm-hmm. A little bit here equals so much later. Absolutely. Because when you're talking about that too, you're not necessarily talking about length. You're also talking about quality.
Absolutely.
And so if you stay active, if you stay healthy, those years that you get, you'll still feel good for them, hopefully, as long as you're taking care of yourself.
Because you're doing a HIIT workout, like a high intensity training workout, like where it's, getting your heart rate up and strong. So I think that's why CrossFit's so popular. That's why these other things are so popular.
Well, look at Dick Van Dyke, right? He just hit 100, and the guy still goes to the gym and these things.
Crazy, man.
It's wild.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It is interesting too, because as the older you get, you're like, goo. Like when you see him, you're used to seeing him like Mary Poppins or like the Dick Van Dyke Show, like where he's like strong and healthy and a full head of dark hair and all this other stuff. And you see him now, the white out. It's like his skin is that iridescent older skin. Yeah. He's got the white hair and the whole thing, and you're like, oh my goodness.
When did you become my grandpa?
He's like a ghost of himself. Yeah. But he's still kicking, man. Still running.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy. Another one here. It says that if you do 5 minutes a day of moderate exercise, you have a 10% lower mortality rate, which is pretty good. I think just the daily get out there and grind, little 10-minute action.
Yeah. It's one of those things, if you break it down enough and I can do anything for 30 seconds. I can do anything for 5 minutes. I can do it,
Yeah.
And if you know that there's an end in sight, it makes it a lot easier.
You're able to accomplish it. They say volunteering helps you with 22% lowering your mortality rate by volunteering. I thought that was pretty cool. What do you think the connection is there, J-Bo?
I think it's just like the sense of dopamine and serotonin that you get from serving other people. A lot of people kind of lack that within like their daily life as service of another person. They're so used to like self-gratify that just by helping another person and connecting with somebody else in that way, it'll just like boost your health, but also your long-term goals and objectives in helping other people. So then you're more likely to continue that lifestyle going forward.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Angus?
I think it's kind of like a relational version of donating blood, right?
Okay,
So when you donate blood, the more you donate blood, the healthier you are, because you have to refresh. And the Lord knows that the people that are working, as they pour out, he's going to have to pour in something fresh. So I think that's the thing. I've noticed when we started volunteering and serving at the church, we didn't have the time to do it. But when we took the time out to do it, what we found was the Lord multiplied the other time and made it us more effective.
More productive,
And so by pouring out and getting rid of some of that other time that we were just using for ourselves, the Lord blessed the other stuff and kind of renewed. And so I see it as, just another representation of what happens inside of us.
I love that, man. That's so super cool. The next one they had here was they say that 3 cups of coffee a day help prevent 21% fewer heart attacks. You guys don't drink coffee. I do. But I don't know if I vibe this one. You guys think 21% more by having 3 cups of coffee? Seems like a lot.
Well, I do enjoy coffee, but I don't drink it all the time.
Yeah, you
just
will
because,
have a cup, yeah.
Because I don't want to get to the point where I have caffeine withdrawals and all that kind of stuff. But I have seen studies on this. This is one of the reasons why one study will say one thing and one says the other is all because of genetics. And so coffee. So the reason you see it like almost split 50-50 is because a certain percentage of the population, it has all the desired effects that you want, where it's the staying up and everything. The other people, if you've got this certain gene, coffee turns it on and you feel miserable and nauseous and this other thing. So for those people, I absolutely believe it would be good, but for others, not so good.
Yeah.
But it's so many things like that that's why it's hard for us to have the same standards for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Javo, you're not a huge coffee guy. More Minnie Mouse when it's nice and sweet and all that stuff.
Basically.
So more of a frappuccino situation, or what?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just use it as like an excuse for pretty much to put anything in the coffee as long as it tastes good. It's like almost like you're taking a liquid ice cream, if it like but it's pretty good. So.
Which you don't do a lot of sweets, so that's not a bad thing. Is you're doing it literally pretty rare.
Yeah, it just depends. Like I typically won't do much heavy stuff. If I do anything at all, it's probably gonna be like ice cream or something like that, just because it's lighter. And I mean, even though the dairy probably ends up like killing me in the long run, which it most of the time does, it's fine. I'll still go through with it.
So coffee, you think you'll ramp up? I mean, you're already in college. You're not really doing coffee now.
No, not at all. No.
Maybe occasionally a Celsius or something.
Yeah, I mean, Celsius is probably also one of those things where like if you take it too much, you get like pretty addicted to it. But I also, the way that like my schedule works for my major of choice, and then also just the way that I'm able to organize everything kind of negates the fact that I have to wake up consistently like at like 7 a.m. or something. So it's not really a big deal for me as long as I actually like spread my time out of when I'm sleeping.
That's good. I am not that. Definitely a consumer of coffee and or all caffeine. And so, there's definitely been times, especially like, doing like an all, like just a water fast or something like that, where I'm not doing any caffeine. Oh, dude, first 2 days, not fun. As I go through all the caffeine withdrawals and have gnarly headaches for 2 days. But after you go through it, it's fine. I went for Seasons of Life with my friend. Ashley and I just challenged each other not to do any soda. We didn't do soda for like a year. We didn't do like much, any kind of energy drinks and stuff like that as well. Like we just like did some changes. And so it just depended on the season, what we were doing. But yeah, been way more on the caffeine side than the not caffeine side. So I don't think this is going to benefit me very much. I think I'm past it. So it's probably going to go down the other direction. They say social isolation has a 41% higher rate of mortality whenever you're socially isolated. It goes directly to what you were saying earlier. Man, if you just don't have friends and don't have the connections, I mean, you could see why it would take you down fast. Mm-hmm. You ever been in a situation? I mean, you pretty young with your wife, so you guys have been connected pretty long time. But did you ever have a situation where you felt like socially isolated?
Yeah, there've been times where I felt like that, but I have thought about the fact that, I went pretty much from my family to being in a relationship with Annie, and so I really haven't been alone like that. There was a time where we did this training in Boy Scouts called the Order of the Arrow. Okay. And the whole thing is they take you on a weekend, and from Friday night to Sunday, you don't speak at all. Oh. And what they do is Friday night, they take you out and place you, and then you get service projects the next day where you're working with a group of people that you've never met before.
Interesting.
And you have to do it all in silence. So they'll give you a task, and then you have to work together to do it. And some of it was incredible. Like we were setting up the summer camp.
Can you grunt? Can you verbalize?
You can, you can grunt. There were some guys who were removing tree stumps and removing, just
in silence.
In the mud covered head to toe, just dragging it with ropes out of ditches and things like that, so that So it was cleared for the campers.
Wow.
And so we set up all the tents and did all of this stuff on meager rations and all of these things. And so sometimes you'll be off and you are alone and you've got a job that you can't do, and you realize how important
Teamwork.
it is to have people around.
Wow.
and just how much. And then at the end, when everybody gets to talk, you share your experiences, and they reward you with an incredible steak dinner and the whole thing. And so it's one of those things, man. I'll never forget it. And but there's a lot of, the other thing that I really took away is you don't always have to talk when you work. You know, you can work in silence with somebody and be okay with that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And so, and as a talker, especially when I work, sometimes it's really nice to be with somebody else who's like, let's just work together, and we don't have to speak. We can just get it done.
You and I are both talkers. If we're working together, we always talk. Man. So I'm like thinking about that. I'm like, that'd be really crazy.
Yeah.
Because we just chat the whole time. You know, even we got other people around us, and that, I mean, if we're not chatting, all of us have an earpod in, or some kind of thing where it's like we're listening to something in our other ear anyway. So.
Listening to the podcast as we talk to each other.
I know the one day I was listening to the podcast, you were listening to the podcast, we were in different places in it because I started earlier. So I'm listening, I'm talking to you, listening to you in my ear. It was real weird. Yeah. It was super bizarre. This last one here, they say that 8,000 steps a day will lower your health risk by 51%. You guys think you get 8K steps a day? You ever take the stairs, Javo? You live way up in
I
the
do
sky.
take the stairs. I take the stairs. This is actually really funny. I don't do it for a health reason. I do it because whenever I'm on an Xbox call with my friends, there's like the signal will buffer between when I leave my room and when I go down the elevator, because it's disconnecting from the Wi-Fi and going to my cellular.
Right.
So then the call cuts out. But because the app is so janky, it will take me like 5 minutes if I want to go back in and like rejoin the party. So I will join the call with it on cellular in my room and just take the stairs down so that there's no interference, so that I can go over to the gym at like 1 a.m. And then I just don't have to worry about there ever like being any interference or like the call stopping at any point.
So you're on an Xbox call, not playing a game.
No.
Just on the call.
No, yeah, we just do it for pure like social.
While you go to the gym.
Yeah. I mean, it's like being on a phone call with somebody. It's not too bad. But once again, I mean, it's a different age, different understanding of technology. Like,
for sure.
Like for me, even though technically I'm lonely and then I'm like the only person in my room for like a decent amount of the time per week, I'm talking to a bunch of people like all the time, whether that's on like FaceTime, whether that's on an Xbox call, or even just like virtually playing a game with somebody. So it's way different now. I think it's harder to be like not talking to somebody every step of the day if you really are like an extroverted person like that. But at the same time, I mean, you do need that physical connection with somebody. So I get why people are still lonely in a society like that.
Yeah. Would you consider yourself an extrovert?
I don't know, man. I kind of just do like whatever I feel like doing in the moment. Like if I am with a bunch of people that I know, I'll typically talk a decent amount. But besides that, like if I really don't need to connect with these people beyond like just this one time or whatever, I'll probably just stay silent for the most part, because there's nothing else, I don't know, for me to really gain from it, at least in my own head. So
wow,
I don't know.
That's good. I'm a default talker.
Yeah.
Angus?
I'm actually a default I just went blank.
Yeah, introvert.
Yeah. I'm a default introvert with
most people would say you're opposite.
With situational extroversion.
Yeah.
So here at Cornerstone, this is my home,
right.
And so like I've got no problem with that. But I'm very thankful when we go to network events and things, because you know everybody and all of that, and you're very good to include me in conversations. Oh, yeah. But you know, I've met more people in going to things with you than I had in the years previous, just because I'm a lot slower to it, because I like to observe and see what people are like, so I know where I can stand with them and everything before I typically do that. And by the time I've done that, usually the event's over. So I've learned a lot from the way you interact with people, and so I've just picked up some of the tools, which I'm really thankful for, because now I'm a lot better at doing that. So I don't feel nearly as awkward when I'm in those situations. But my default setting is like I would much rather just sit and observe and have somebody approach me with what they're interested in talking about.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm definitely, I've been on both ends of that. So for whatever reason, I was joking. I was singing, that Bieber song where he says, "I'm so lonely." That whole thing, or like, "I know I'm by myself and I am alone." You're like, you think of all these like songs that talk about that. And it's so true, man. Like I've done a lot of work, like fundraising as a missionary in the past. A ton of that was by myself so that you guys would have consistent life. So Celeste and I agreed together that she wouldn't travel with me all the time unless it was here within Arizona, and we could do that by car. But if I was going to fly somewhere else, unless it was for a long amount of time, then we were going to have the kids be consistent and have a home church and do all the things here and be connected in, which meant I was wheels up. And so I spent a lot of time by myself. Mm-hmm. And then when I was in corporate sales, I had all these accounts all over Arizona, and then we had into Vegas, and our offices are in Southern Cal. So, dude, I was always in the cars, like left door closed, right foot down, going to another place or in a store or talking with the different clients. And as we doing that, but in between, it's all by yourself. Mm-hmm. So just a lot of that. So man, there's a lot of time in listening and learning and thinking where you're not talking. You know what I mean? You're just doing it. So interesting deal as you think about that idea of being those people that have the isolation and then also being the people that are connected.
Well, and one thing that I've found just in all of the different kind of leadership aspects I've been in is leadership can also be very lonely.
Oh yeah.
Because as a leader, you catch all of the things that, people don't like and plan and do all of the things that leadership entails. But you can't necessarily share that struggle always with the people who are following you, because that could look like weakness or indecision and things like that. And, sometimes it's hard to share with peers because people can take advantage of that or whatever. And so a lot of times, and there are so many leadership books on that, you end up very alone because you don't really have somebody that you feel you can process, and the more you talk with men too, because they're the leader of their home, they have this same burden, whether it's on the scale of a country or a church or whatever it is. Within the home, the men feel that burden of leadership. And so a lot of times they don't share what's going on, even with their wife, because, they want their wife to feel confident in the direction that he's leading. And
don't want to make, a lot of guys don't want to look weak.
Yeah.
So makes sense. Mm-hmm. Huge. Yeah. Back to the isolation, man, that we watch out for that. And if you see that in a friend, reach out to them. If it sparks in your heart, like take that from the Holy Spirit to reach out to them and connect with them. And be intentional with that. Talking about that from a leader perspective, it is interesting because the kind of the impetus is put on us, especially as Christian leaders, to be those that go and reach out the other way. It's kind of expectation, which we naturally do that, but we can't reach everyone. And so a lot of times we don't even know people are going through something because they've never communicated it to us. Yeah. And so it's like, man, I would love to pray with you and be there with you and just be alongside you if we can do this thing together. If you'd let me know. So a lot of times that's one of those things. So we're appreciative of people that put in the prayer requests or reach out to us so we can talk with them, or they want to have a sounding board before it gets bad. How can we navigate this? How can we help you in this way? And that's been something really positive. Going back to this thing about living longer. So in all these ways that, we can try to apply them the best we can and try to get our steps in and try to do better in our stuff. But a lot of it is just being intentional. Yeah. So to be intentional, to be better. Hey, another a question that we were talking about was this idea of food that is not natural. And you kind of brought this to me, but I had seen it as well. UpFoods, which is owned by, it's actually by Bill Gates, right?
He's one of the major investors, and there's several investors. And so I had seen a couple of things about it. It's gaining more popularity, and it's one of those things that question mark what's going to happen with it, but
explain it a little bit.
Initially when I saw it, I thought surely this is not true, so I went and I watched a TED talk from one of the founders of the company. So this guy, he does not like the idea of having to kill animals for food. So what they've done is they now make lab-grown chicken and meats. So what they did, long story short, is they took cells from and proteins from eggs and from chicken, and they cultivated it. And they've got a whole process that as they cultivate it, these protein strands begin to form, and those proteins begin to form into muscle, and then they turn into chicken and all of this. So
chicken meat, yeah.
So the cells that they're using now in 2026 were initially harvested back in the mid to late 2000s. And so it's pretty crazy that this is what they're doing, is replicating.
Right.
And so you think, oh, I would never try this. Well, it's actually being served really mainly on the high and upper scale. So it's not like that it's being snuck into some of the the things that you're having right now. It's actually kind of considered a luxury. And in a lot of the reviews, so Mr. Beast, I saw a video where he tried one side by side, real chicken and this, and other reviews that they basically say it tastes more like chicken than chicken.
Right.
Right. Which is just a crazy concept. In fact, on the side by side, Mr. Beast chose the lab grown as the natural chicken. So really weird. So what I was curious about is if we see the progression of this, that, we're no longer seeing field raised animals, and your options are lab grown or bugs, what do you choose?
Oh, that's an interesting idea. Javen, what do you think, man? Lab grown meat or bugs? Because that's another protein source that people in the past, man, they grew bugs for that very source.
Yeah, I think it's way harder to get, for most people, especially on an American diet, to get the same amount of macros out of like consuming that many bugs, or even like harvesting that many bugs. I think it would just be, technically it's not more complicated of a process, but it would be a more extraneous process for everybody involved.
Well, they've grown them, they grow them in essentially like farming them. So they have a ton of them. And they'll do like a meal, like cornmeal, but they'll do it out of protein from caterpillars or from other crickets or other things like that.
Yeah,
which is an interesting deal.
Yeah, so they're actually already using that protein, and you can look at your nutrition labels. I forget exactly what it is, but if you see that, that's what it is. It's bug protein. But the idea is that if some of these people have their way, who are buying up all the farmland and making it impossible for the meat to be grown, or to such a limited extent that only the wealthy can afford it, or through carbon credits and stuff, because that's the thing, is you trade carbon credits to be able to afford those. So if some of these people have their plans and designs, that's their plan, is that we get to eat bugs or what's grown in the lab. So that's why I asked the question, what would you choose given the option?
Honestly, I don't really particularly care. I think, as long as
Javen's too pragmatic for this answer.
Yeah, I mean, I just will eat pretty much anything as long as it's not gonna kill me. So and if it really tastes as good as they say it tastes, then I'm pretty sure, as long as you didn't really tell me what was going on, and there wasn't human cells within whatever I'm eating, then I would have no problem with it.
You wouldn't be like somebody who's a cannibal.
Yeah, that's about the only issue I would have with that. Otherwise, it's no problem.
Made me think of the stand-up comedian Jim Gaffigan. He talks about how the next thing is was this raised on an open farm, and it's all the next level of your chicken or your cow or whatever, and he kind of pushes the envelope. He's like, I'll take the chicken. Can you find out if it had a nickname? It's what? You know what I mean? The next level, talking about Wagyu beef, how they would give it beer and give massages to it, so it gets in the marbleization of the meat. He goes, I want to be Wagyu beef. Yeah. He's doing this, which is pretty funny. But it's man, you think about this next thing, it's that's not even that. Which I know, the PETA people and things like that, they've always been about, even a transition to eat more beef than chicken, because there's so many chickens that are harvested for this reason. Now, I'm sharp teeth in the mouth kind of a believer in that. So I'm more on the other end of carnivore than even omnivore necessarily. But I mean, it's an interesting thing with them doing this kind of stuff. I assume that they're trying to do it because they want to go towards living on the moon and space exploration and all that. So if we're going to have a church plant on the moon, it means we're going to have to eat, whatever, UpFoods chicken or chicken protein or whatever they're going to call it, or bugs or whatever else they're growing for us, which would be an interesting idea. But I've eaten bugs. I've eaten all sorts of bugs in Asia and different places. Had, the flavored, crickets and whatnot. Thankfully, not some of the big bugs I've seen, Bear Grylls eat, which are super nasty, man. I don't know what that guy's doing, but making millions of dollars, but it's not like this guy out here, man, eating this stuff. What about you? What do you think?
I think probably the same. With what I would do is wait for a few years to see what sort of growths people start acquiring as a result of eating lab grown
arm in the middle of your back.
Yeah, I mean, if things progress fine and there don't seem to be any health risks, then I'll probably go that route because it sounds way more appetizing than crickets. When we were in Indiana, we saw they had freeze-dried crickets that were flavored like salt and vinegar, dill pickle. I don't know if I could get.
It just tastes like crunch. That's literally all it is. It's like the bottom, the little, because of the shape of them. It's like the little chips at the bottom of a bag kind of a thing.
I'll have to try them.
That was no big deal. I haven't really. I've done a little bit of that stuff in the past, like scorpions and different things like that, but haven't really got into the big roaches, which would be hard to do. I know people have done the Madagascars and stuff.
No,
the Fear Factor version of that. I'm gonna go ahead and pass.
Yeah.
As long as they let me pass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it seems sketchy. And I'll say this, as we've hunted and harvested food, growing up, I did that. So I've cleaned animals, I've harvested the animal, field dress the animal, go pack the animal out, go clean the animal as far as skin it and quarter it and do all those things, then process it myself. So we've done a lot of that. Done it with elk, done it with deer, done it with birds of all types. And so for me, it's like, knowing where your food comes from is really good. Mm-hmm. And you don't have all the other stuff that's added to it. So there's some really nice things about harvesting in that way. This is really interesting because it's going to end up like all of our other packaged food, which has tons of additives and all these other things to it. So that's what makes me skittish about this, is that the way you're trying to get away from things and be more holistic and naturalistic is to go back to these other, like more simple diet instead of things that are packaged.
We'll see. And what I started to think about as I was watching the TED Talk is the secondhand implications that maybe we don't necessarily think of at the forefront, which is the byproducts of, the manure and the stuff that's produced.
Oh yeah, sure. Methane.
Because, if they put back minerals and they put back into the soil. And so if we're not putting back via our livestock and those things,
that's
and we're only taking out because of the vegetables and those things, we have to figure out another way, because that was the problem in North Korea. Mm-hmm. They didn't have enough manure. And so now they're using human manure to fertilize their fields. And there's a quota because they don't have enough livestock. And so we have to be very careful that we don't overcorrect and go the other way and go, oh, we didn't really think this far ahead.
Right. Which are chemical companies to be pumped, because then they're just going to make more chemicals, etc. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, interesting thing, man. Us to navigate as we get into the creative solution for issues in the future. Sometimes we're overcorrecting for things that maybe we would not want to get to. Hey, one of the things that we've seen and we've talked about often is the rapid technology that's happening in implementation in China. One of the things that they've done for a long time is they've had CCTV, which we've seen across Asia, not just in China. That's everywhere. We know, like Singapore, they'll watch everything. They have street corners everywhere. That's in public is all recorded. So if you're doing like a crime, they'll just watch it back on the tape, follow you back to where you came from, and follow you all the way back to where you're staying, go and arrest you. And so they do a lot of that. And then China has a thing, which obviously with their social score and things like that, where the AI has been actively tracking it and will check your face and connect you to things and can say whether or not you can travel or buy or do any of these kind of stuff. And now will automatically take a fine and just take it from your account. Which I was like, man, could you imagine implementing that in America? Oh. How it would change all the things. Because if it implemented that right away where you had it taken from your account, I think people would act way different.
Oh, man.
Huge game changer. Jay, what do you think just on campus?
Just on campus? Oh, people would be so mad. They would never, ever let that slide. I just think America is way too proud of the fact that we're like so built on free will and the idea that everybody has like a right to privacy and things like that.
Okay.
That even if we got to a point of convenience like that where everything is automated for you, but they get to kind of like take whenever they want from you, depending on what laws are going on, depending on what zones, what restrictions are in this area, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody would really be in favor of that, because that's like extreme socialism to the max. So I don't know. I think like the more control you have for a single agent or a single party, the more dangerous it gets for every individual to try to like actually live your life as an individual.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing. I mean, I don't slight them because that's their society where they're at. I mean, it's not something I would want to operate in necessarily long term, but I kind of think, like I would love to go visit China, and it'd be great to go and check it out. I mean, been great, some great people. There's a lot of believers there, some other things. Really interesting to see like what it would look like to be in some of these big cities. Like we just saw the thing in Shanghai or in Shenzhen and all these other places. You're like, dude, go see it. It would be pretty wild. But also, you guys keep it on, man, because here we'll be like, there's no traffic, whatever, dude. You just walk across the street, jaywalk. There's nobody here. There's nobody problems. Whereas that would just be, dude, you boop, boop, auto deduct from your Alipay or whatever is going on. And you're in trouble, man. So it'd be one of those things that you'd have to keep it in lock, that's for sure. Yeah,
I've seen videos where people have posted that they're trying to buy things and they're not allowed to. It won't scan, and they just tell it has a message that they're not allowed to for whatever reason. There are even stores that it's got facial recognition, so the doors won't even open if you don't have the right score. So you can't even go in to look around to buy a water.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so on the surface, again, it looks great because everybody's working together. But the reason things that we've talked about that can be implemented is because the people don't really have a choice. The way I see it over here is this is one of those issues that regardless of where you are on the spectrum and how you feel about this issue or that, this is one of those that is like, okay, if we want to maintain freedom, if we take a look at China, if that's what you want and we can all agree on it, then okay. But if not, then we need to bond together and, because as Americans, we vote with our wallet.
Right, sure.
And so when stores and businesses begin to implement it, we vote the other way. But if we can't get united and they do it, we just become, ensnared in a system that we didn't really want.
Yeah, that's a good point. It actually kind of dovetails into this next thing. We've been talking about the use of robots, especially in Asia. They've rolled it out really fast, and then we've seen it actually more in the Bay and some other places here in the States. We've seen how they've been using robot servers in certain restaurants. But we also know that the laws in places like California, they won't prosecute you for certain levels of things. They don't do anything until it gets a certain number. There was a video of a guy who just walked into a restaurant and stole a robot server that's running around he just picks that bad boy up. He's got a mask, on, he's got a hoodie on. He is dragging it outside, and the guys out of the back come out and yelling at him, and he's like, whatever. And like essentially opens the back of his car, which he had clearly stolen other stuff in the back of this car from other places, and drags this thing into the back and just takes off. He just takes off with it. It blew my mind. I was like, dude, this guy's got just all sorts of moxie to get in here and steal this thing.
Makes me think of the movie Short Circuit and just abducting Johnny number 5.
Exactly right. Exactly. It was pretty crazy, man. I don't know. What do you guys think the future of that would be? Imagine if that thing had someone's credit card or something with it at the server at the time. He's just snaking it and walking away.
What are you going to do with that when you get it home?
I assume he just wants to chill on the couch and was just like, I found the solution. I was having sushi here last week, and here we go. I'm going to snake this bad boy.
Wow.
That's pretty crazy. Jay, what do you think, man?
I mean, it's pretty wild. Like, kind of to Angus's point, I don't really know what you would do because it's meant to serve like a primary customer function. So it's like built in with like payment systems and things like that. So unless you're really good at robotics or coding or something like that, like reworking that robot has to be pretty difficult to do. The only thing I can think that he would just outright steal it for is to break it down and sell it for parts. But
that's true.
Because of how expensive chips are right now.
That's
it's
true.
like it's low-key ridiculous, but
that's true. I didn't think about it. The way that people like strip all the the copper out of things.
Yeah,
it's like the item is worth way more. They'll do that to air conditioners here in Phoenix. Where they'll break in and steal the copper out of it, and you're like, dude, the air conditioner's worth way more than the copper you got, but they don't care. They're just stealing it for the money, immediate money. So yeah, pretty crazy. I was just thinking about that in context to like what happens. People start stealing each other's robots, like what that's gonna be like, and will the robot know to go home? You know what I mean? You're going to see this server robot rolling down the road, trying to go back home to the restaurant. It's got a rover situation where it goes back in.
Goodness.
It'd be pretty crazy. Hey, here in Phoenix, they built out, which has been built in other places, but very unique to Arizona, is they built what's called a 15-minute city where it's walkable and there are no cars in the middle. So you can only ride bikes, skateboard, scooter, whatever it is like that. And so that's what's going on. So they built one in the east side of town, which is rolling out. It's like apartments and a bunch of things all together. And then the center paths, all the parking's around the outside. The center paths are all just on foot. and they have like some different elements that are there with stores and different things that are in that. What do you think about that? Would you be interested in living in a walkable city like that?
So I love the idea of a 15-minute city, except for the controls that can come with it.
Okay.
Because with some of the talk of various plans is you have to have a reason to go outside, because everything's within 15 minutes. You need to have a reason to go out, and so if you can have that where you don't need to, but I still have the freedom to go to Tucson or whatever without question, I've got no problem with it.
Yeah.
But it's when those other controls and stuff start coming in that I'm like, I don't like slowly being penned in.
Yeah, no, and that's true. I didn't really think about that. I was thinking more just in your everyday functionality. Here, we lived in vertical cities. Vertical cities are naturally walkable because things are, the bottom floors are typically stores, storefronts, interaction. You can go in there, grab stuff from a corner store, and that's where that concept came from. Is it's literally on the corner. Like you go down and grab some things for grocery or whatever, and come right back to your place. So it's like you can get things fresh, you can get things day of, very easy. Whereas here, man, we have to get in a car and drive somewhere. Like there's no place that doesn't have driving involved, which is why you had the altercation happen this afternoon and getting bumped. You know what I mean? And like them hitting the back of your car. It's because everybody's in a car all the time.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that's really interesting.
But I'd say 95% of my time is within 15 minutes of my house. So I I would naturally stay within that, but don't tell me I have to.
No, for sure.
And that's that's my line.
Yeah, no argue there for sure. Jamin, you live kind of in a little bit of version of that, because when you're walking around campus, it's pretty big.
Yeah.
And mostly walkable.
Yeah, we're right by a bunch of cars, so like all the time. I think the thing about living in a 15-minute city is it definitely appeals to people, kind of like to what Angus was saying, that aren't going to go outside for any reason because everything is in there. It's kind of like living in small town USA, for like lack of a better comparison, except like it's more densified, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
but it's also like the idea of the way that the parking structure would work, if I understand it the way you're talking about, would just make parking a nightmare depending on like what area you were at. Because if you had to walk diagonally all the way from like the northeast part of the city all the way to like southwest just to get to your car or to get to your apartment and like make that back and forth, I feel like people would get decently tired of that, instead of like parking structures that are built into their apartments or houses or whatever apparatus they have over there. And yeah, I don't know, like, so depending on the geometric design of the city or the way that they have like walking paths and roads, it could work, but it just seems like there's a bunch of things that you have to navigate around first before like I would be willing to jump in and like actually go live there.
Yeah, I think it's similar actually to the way you're living now, in that there are either parking lots or parking structures that are in a certain spot. So just similar to how you're on which floor of a building are you on?
On the 6th one.
Yeah, so you're up a building and you're in a vertical situation.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that we've lived like that before, on the 12th story of a building. We've been surrounded by big buildings and been a part of that kind of stuff. Just part of how it works when you live in big cities. Whereas here, because of the sprawl of the way Phoenix works, it's not like that at all. So having parking structures and this other stuff, which is really normal for other places and other people. In France, they had them down below ground. So they would go dig down, and parking structure would be 4 or 5 floors deep, but it's just straight down. And so you're working your way back up to the surface, because they didn't want the big structures above ground. They're just like, no, we'll just dig down and put it down here. And that's how they handled it. And you'll see it down the Champs-Élysées. There's parking all down the Champs-Élysées, just underground.
Yeah.
So they have that very common, where it'd be interesting to see how they do that. I doubt very seriously they go into the money to put it underground. Here they just put it above ground and make it be ugly. But I've seen Bjarke Ingels, who's a very famous architect. They have the Bjarke Ingels group. And there's those guys that are working on stuff. They did the place that in Copenhagen, he's from Copenhagen, but has a spot in New York as well. And they did the thing where they did a massive trash recycling center there in Copenhagen, that the center takes so much out of it that the only thing that it emits is like vapor. And they turned that whole big massive trash place, they actually wrapped it in a building and made a ski slope on top of it.
Wow.
Because they get snow, but they have no elevation. So everybody was going skiing over in Sweden, and they had to go hours away to Sweden to go skiing because that's where the mountain is.
Yeah.
But they get snow in the city, so they just built themselves a building that's a mountain. So now you can ski on top of this building right there in the city.
Wow.
So he's done the similar thing. He did a thing called a court scraper, which is a it's a courtyard building, so it has a hollow center, but then it's high on one point, like so towards me, because the sun would be rising in a certain direction. So the high side is the one that wouldn't cast the shadow on the courtyard, but instead they have it low on that side and then higher on the other sides, so that it actually has this bizarre shape, but it's because of the way the sun tracks, so that the sun will always hit the courtyard. And that all the people inside of those buildings get a lot more sunlight than you would be if you had just had a center shaft and only the people on the top would get the sunlight. People on the down would be really dark.
That's cool.
So it's really cool, ingenious. One of the things he did was, back in Copenhagen, is he has like a mountain, like a tiered building, looks like the way that rice fields look like whenever you've been in Asia. In the tiered building, the backside of it, people would drive up a parking structure and park right into the back of their house. Wow. So your parking spot is your apartment. And so they're shot like this straight out. So it's tiers of those. And then you have one parking spot behind it. So you get out of your car, walk through your back door, and your back door goes into the back side of your apartment. But really, your front door is seen as your terrace. Wow. So your terrace is your front door. And then everybody has shared terrace. Like you have your own spot of the terrace, but then share like a greater outside terrace. So you'd kind of go out your own little gate where your own garden's at. And you'd go outside and you walk around like that. And so kids are riding their bikes around on the terraces of this big, massive building. And it has places that go up and down gradually. So you can kind of walk from the top to the bottom and all the way back up. That's cool. Very cool.
Wow.
And I was like, man, if they put that kind of intentionality, then it'd be really cool to live there.
100%.
But if it's just like apartment complexes with no cars in between, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So it has a lot to do with the architectural design, to Jaden's point.
For
sure. So that'd be a really interesting thing. Man, but I'd be interested to check it out. And definitely be interesting to see, how that would shape what it looks like for a community of faith and how you might live or have a community of faith in a place like that. Because obviously it wouldn't be built into the structure for someone who's not of faith to provide a space. So what would that space look like? Be interesting. Hey, one of the things that we've seen pop up a lot is 1 versus 100. The original idea started a few years ago with, could 100 men beat one gorilla? Have you guys seen this concept?
Yeah.
Obviously, they haven't run that on a video because that would be insane. But I did see, I think it was at a Dortmund game where they had one pro soccer player versus 100 kids that are soccer players. Did you happen to see this video?
Yeah, it's so funny.
So funny. What was your take, Angus?
It was just the power of numbers.
The power of numbers, for sure.
Very, the one guy was doing really good. The pro soccer player was doing really good, but as soon as they caught up to him, man, it was all over. They just mobbed him, and there was no scoring on him. So, the power of association versus isolation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the kid that hit it, he hit the shot. He kind of shot one as they got close to the box, hit a shot, pretty good shot. He runs to the corner, does a sweet, like from Cristiano, does a whole celebration in the corner by the flag stick. I was like, that's pretty fire.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Is there something that you could beat if there was 100 of you? Or do you think you could beat 100 of something? Oh, I was thinking about this. I mean, the gorilla is really hard. We were just at the zoo in San Diego over the New Year, and I was looking at these big silverbacks, man. I'm like, I don't know, dog. I mean, 100 of me versus that thing. I mean, you'd have to have a big wave of you be sacrificial.
Yeah.
Like good 30, 40 of you have to be like the pile that he's taking care of, and then you jump on top of him and take advantage of him. But it would be really hard.
Yeah, I don't know.
And no, if it was 100 of me, I don't know that any of us would want to be sacrificial to be a part of the first 40. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know if there'd be 100 of me if I could take out like even a tiger. You know what I mean? Like, what is it that they're doing?
I don't know.
I remember the Nate Bargatze and his guys on his podcast were talking about, they're all stand-up comedians. So it's like Brian Bates and Aaron Weber, Dusty Slay. These guys are all talking, and they're saying this concept of if you could run away from a grizzly bear, because grizzly bears are like gigantic, and I think they can run like 35 miles an hour, like super, super fast, beat us on foot for sure. And they're like, oh, for sure. If you had like juke moves, like if you were a really good, running back, or like you're really good like wide receiver who can juke, then you could juke the bear and get away and maybe attack the bear. I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know about all of that. Pretty crazy. Jay, what do you think, man? If there was 100 of you, could you beat something big like that?
Oh, I mean, maybe. I think.
Or do you think you could beat 100 kids at a certain sport?
I think I'd do me versus 100 fluffy bunnies.
That's actually a pretty good one.
I don't foresee them trying to eat you, so you probably have the advantage.
Have you seen Monty Python?
Oh, yeah. The attack of the killer bunny in the cave. Yeah, totally. That's funny. Javen, you got any idea?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is like something small. Like people usually talk about like horse-sized chickens or like chicken-sized horses or stuff like that.
Silly crazy.
But I think like that's a good question. Like if I had a bunch of a really small animal, kind of like what Angus is talking about, do I think I could beat 100 of them?
Of course.
Like even 100 frogs.
Of course.
Well, I mean, they're
That's
not going
a
to
French
kill you.
meal, bro.
Or what about like
That's
what if it's like
legs.
poisonous dart frogs?
Oh, that's a different story.
Then you run a different risk. It depends on like how open the area is.
Do you have a stick? Yeah, sure.
What do I have a stick? Like, do I get to go in water? Like,
do you have to bite them all? Like, what's happening?
No, you don't have to bite them all. But I don't
Me
know.
versus 100 pigeons.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I don't know, man. Pigeons get wild.
Oh, birds.
Oh, but
What if they all grab hold of you and fly you in the
Yeah,
air?
birds got the advantage.
I don't know, man. I'd still like to try.
I'd still like to try.
True.
You know what's crazy is that they brought that pigeon over here as a food animal. Originally, they eat them in Egypt because they raise them, but they're not eating trash, they're not eating rubbish.
Yeah.
They're like a food bird.
Mhm.
So it's like a dove, essentially. That's what they
Yeah.
are. And so it's really interesting to do that and to see. We've had it. I've eaten it. I've had it. It's like they prepare it especially for Ramadan, and people would order them from these restaurants that are famous, and especially the older generation. They remember. So they would have it. I'm like, I got to try it, man. I'm here. This is the only spot I'm going to ever eat a pigeon.
I would try it someplace like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely not going to like grab one out of a park here in the city and just like snack. You know what I mean? That's not where I'm coming from.
Oh,
So,
no.
I don't know. 100 would be hard, man. Even if it was one of me versus 100 small things, or even 100 of me versus something significant, that'd be tough. It'd just be a really tough trade-off.
Yeah.
Because it'd be like, no thanks. I'm going to volunteer not to do that. I'm gonna volunteer not as tribute. How about that? Hey, one of the things we want to talk about here today is community. And one of the challenges we put forth into our community of faith here is that each person in this year, so 2026, each person in this year lead another person to Jesus. And so the challenge for us, even those of us who are pastors, is to get out there and to share our faith one-on-one with somebody. And so we've been praying for people, and I've been praying already in my prayer list of my friends around me, is like, how can I reach out to someone and share the love of God with them? That's been a pretty powerful thing. Yeah. What about you guys? You guys heard the challenges going out? Does that spark something in your heart?
Yeah, it definitely does with me. In fact, I recently had an encounter where I got to lead a student to Jesus, not one of our Cornerstone students. And the way the Lord had me do it was just incredible. It made such an impact on me. And we've led people to Christ before, and it's one thing to lead and do an altar call when people are receptive, but it's completely different one-on-one.
Absolutely.
And man, it was so impactful for me. I cherish that moment.
Yeah, it's huge. I had a chance to do that quite a few times in my life, and I'm very thankful for that and the opportunity to do it, and just praying this year for the Lord to give me an opportunity to do the same and see that be a breakthrough. So pretty powerful. Javen, what do you think, man? You heard the challenge that's there. Got some people you're praying for?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely like my friends for the most part that I kind of like consistently play Xbox with or see like day to day. Definitely them first in mind. Mm-hmm. Some other family members that we have, like extended family, like just south of here, about like an hour or so.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, they've always been on my mind, and I think especially over the last few days, I like really thought about some of my really close friends, because I was like really thinking, because a few of them were just here for Sunday service, which is super cool to be able to see them in the house. And I think just kind of continuing that momentum and really getting them to question and spark conversations, not only with me, but with other people, or maybe with you, maybe with other pastors, wherever their journey with Christ might lead them. I think it's just great to continue to plant seeds and hopefully be able to water some of it and foster it into something that's great. So
I love that. I've seen a bunch of your friends make commitments to God, even here in services, and having conversations with them, which has been pretty powerful to have that real conversation with them. And I love that.
You were mentioning about the Xbox, and we've talked about the online gaming. Have you seen recently where people, online gamers and stuff, they're like having church and prayer services and stuff online?
We were talking about
that. Yeah.
And so I was just curious, like, how do you see that playing out, and what role do you see like some of our students being able to play in that kind of a thing?
I mean, I think it's definitely an introduction for people in a kind of understanding what Christ is all about and the way that church works, because I've seen church services like on Roblox, on Minecraft. Some people try to do like missional work on Fortnite. I understand the concept behind it. I just feel like if that's kind of all you limit your conversations with people to, they're never going to really get past that step unless you equip them with the tools to get past that step. So while I think it's really good for kind of like the idea of maybe like a life group and like connecting with people and really getting them to grow, it kind of misses like the third punch where you're actually physically going to do something. If people are separated from the physical church and all they really know is like what they've seen online, they'll never really understand the power behind physical sacrament. They'll never really see like spiritual warfare or like or see people like really be slain in the spirit or like understand the spiritual significance of something like an altar call. And because of that, I'm not saying I'm against it whatsoever. I just think that for introductory steps, there needs to be something else that also goes alongside with it. Like, hey, maybe if we're going to meet like once a week online, we'll also have like an additional life group or we'll have like this group of people go to this service if you can make it, something like that.
And come meet me IRL.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Well, yeah, but also in a way that like is inviting and it's not like predatory whatsoever. Yeah,
sure. Obviously a public thing, a public meeting.
No, I know, but I'm just saying that because it's been a big problem for games like Roblox and Minecraft where kids like don't know any better.
Yeah, that's a totally different thing. I'm talking about people of your own age group or
for
people
sure,
that are adults, etc.
Yeah. So I think, definitely as a point of connection, it's something that I think will really help students in not only connecting with other people, almost like doing missions work online, but also in really fostering connections that eventually will grow the church. So.
Yeah, I think it's a great entry point, not final destination.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a great spark of conversation and a way to connect with people. We had that back in the day. I mean, this is back 20 years ago when I was gaming all the time. And, you know, I had a young family and I just got married and then I had a son before we went to missions. And so I was a late night person. My wife is not. So she goes to bed early. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to go run around, you know, when I have a wife at home, I'm going to be here. So maybe I just like lock in and play some video games and listen to podcasts or watch stuff. And in doing so, man, I ended up talking to a bunch of people. Some of those guys came to faith, which is cool. It just was conversation where we got to explain things while we're playing a, you know, Call of Duty. We're playing a, you know, first person shooter, but we're sitting there talking about other things that are just about real life and having real conversations in a chat, which was really powerful. And that was similar to our life group in taking photos in Paris or in Alexandria or other life groups that we've had here, where it was an opportunity to spark a conversation. Yeah. So I think it makes all the difference.
Absolutely.
Hey, one of the C's we talk about is competence, and we've been looking to books and being something to start a conversation with. I'm talking about Pastor Craig Rochelle's book, Winning the War in Your Mind. Really like this book. One of the concepts we have is recognizing your ruts. Means the things that you're falling into, bad habits or sin or other things in our life, and recognizing those ruts so we can get out of those ruts. And Angus, you've had a chance to read this book. What do you think about recognizing your ruts?
I think it's an incredible tool, and it's something that occasionally you should have just periods during the year that you refocus and just kind of reevaluate to see what sort of ruts formed unintentionally or things like that. You know, I try and do that at the beginning of the year too, and just evaluate some of the systems within our home and go, okay, what is the problem that we're always running into and why is it? And then see if we can't eliminate the root cause. And I think that you can do that with the ways you think, the way you do things, the way you interact with colleagues. There's so many things that sometimes we just need to evaluate. Well, maybe the reason I'm so miserable is because I'm stuck in a rut that's taking me the long way around the mountain.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah. Really good point. You know, in context, we also talk about something like breaking old habits. We've talked about that even as we talk about new patterns. So breaking our old habits or our old ruts. I think about in my own life, cussing, smoking, other things like that. Javan, you got anything here that you'd be like, man, this is something that breaking an old habit or maybe something a rut?
I think the first thing that came to mind for me was procrastination. Okay. We live in a day and age where it is so easy to procrastinate now because you literally can just like spend all your time just doom scrolling, doing basically anything you want on your phone, a computer, et cetera, et cetera. And because of AI, it's almost like most of the tasks that you can do now can just be automated to where you don't even have to really be doing them. You just have to set it up so that something else does it for you.
Oh, yeah.
But I find that there's kind of like a spiral effect for me with procrastination. Like if that happens, it'll throw out my sleep schedule. Then like maybe I miss a day at the gym or two or something like that. And I'm like, dude, and it just throws my whole alignment out of whack. So then you really have to lock back in and you're like, oh dude, okay, I need to reset and like really mentally focus on making sure I get this done before I allow myself to do something else.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like
so that's
that.
something I'm trying to work on this semester, especially where now that I have technically more free time out of class, it's very tempting to kind of just like spend all of it doing literally whatever. But it's important to get back and grind. So
yeah, you got to grind it, man. I would say some of the habits that I'm thankful that when you were young that you've broken out of those ruts is you used to run. Javen was very fast in soccer, super fast. He played varsity soccer all 4 years in the club and et cetera, et cetera. Run like the wind. The dude would run and not look where he's running. He would look behind him or to the side while running full speed directly forward. I was so afraid. Dude, he ran into all sorts of stuff. I was like, dude, look where you're going. No. Just whoop, you know what I mean? It was just like I was waiting for him, man. That's so funny. Stuff. Thankfully, that's not been a thing for a very long time. Very good. Also, Javen would lock in when he was young, and when he was think real hard, he'd start biting his lip. And he'd bite his lip all the time, like just biting his lip. I'm like, dude, you're gonna bite your lip off, man. Like, you stop biting your lip. And it just reminded me of other things that I would do when I was young. I would do, stuff like that over time. I had a friend of mine we both know. He cussed so much. He had a really good switch where he wouldn't cuss in front of teachers but his parents. But dude, around everyone else, it was like he couldn't not say the F word.
Oh yeah,
he say it all the time. In every context. And I was like, bro. And then we'd walk in front of his mom and he just talked like a normal person. I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
I just assumed she was cool with it. He was he had older siblings. He was younger. And he could just like flip in and out of it. And like he was just like an auto cue.
So crazy.
But he would just we'd walk out of earshot of his mom immediately just dropping F-bombs and stuff. And he wasn't trying to be vulgar. Yeah. It was just how he talked.
Yeah, that's wild.
It was so crazy. We'd be at school or something. He'd just be talking like that outside. We'd walk right into school and just deleted. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like your level of flexibility on this stuff is wild. Yeah. So, Angus, what about you, man? Old rut you got out of?
Swearing. That was a big one. I had a really nasty mouth when I sounded like Eddie Murphy a lot of times.
Sure.
And Annie was not about that, but she didn't correct me. But when I became a dad, that's when it got real.
Right.
And that's also when I started coming to church and realizing, look, I can't slip up around these people. So I legitimately have to start cleaning up my language. And so I asked the Lord early on, and he took it from me very easily. So now I will say that, the old man still rises up occasionally. Sure. Something happens and it slips out, and man, I feel horrible and I have to go make it right. But I have a completely different vocabulary than I used to.
That's right.
Another one was drinking alcohol. That was in my life I started before 21 and in high school and stuff, and carried it on for a long time. And that was until the Lord took it from me, and I gave it to him and he took it.
Yeah.
And so I'm thankful for that, because I had gotten stuck in some really nasty ruts, and not only that, but I was laying the groundwork for my kids.
Yeah.
So those are some of the biggest ones. Now it's more of just those kinds of things, like maintaining, being intentional and things like that, not getting lazy in different areas.
It's good. I really like that. Yeah, I had the same, out of mouth on me. It was kind of not quite what I was talking with my friend, but definitely from time to time, and more in cutting people down. Like that became a very, like what you guys were joking about, making fun with your friends, but it went beyond that. Like it was like it was cutting. It was like hurting or maligning people and having fun in trying to do that, like using your wit to cut other people down, and ended up getting in fights because of that, like physical altercations because of that, especially in my young 20s and that type of stuff. Like smoking, I ended up smoking cigarettes a lot, and it was one of those things where it became a habit, and it was so habitual. It was like, man, dude, how am I running through 2 packs a day? Like this is crazy. And in order to quit smoking, I had to quit drinking. And I had quit partying a long time ago. So I mean, just like having a beer or a suds or a glass of wine. But it was like one of those things where every time I did that, I wanted a cigarette. And I couldn't. It was trying not to smoke. And so in order to do that, like I had to just cut that out of my life. And it was weird because it was even then I had to cut out like part of how much coffee I drank because I would have coffee and a cigarette. You know what I mean? In the morning, it was just like you built these habits, these ruts that were just, I mean, the health side of it is killing you. You know what I mean? So it was just one of these things where I had to cut that out of my life. And it took some doing. But in doing so, man, I was so thankful after the fact of making that decision and reinforcing that decision and then walking in that decision. So it's so much better, man.
Yeah.
So much better to be able to cut that out. So the Lord help us even in things this year, that ruts that we've fallen into, like you said, about wanting to be lazy and unintentional with time. It's like, Lord, help us to stay out of those ruts and stay on the right way. Hey, one of the books that we want to introduce is a new book since we've already just closed our last one, and that's Dream Big. This is by Bob Goff, and a very interesting concept. Bob is a very interesting guy. He says, don't settle for anything less because God says you're worth it. And I like some of his stuff. It's very much like a encouragement kind of thing, a dream big kind of situation, as you might imagine from the title. And the first thing we have here is, don't go alone. Surround yourself with people who love you well. What do you guys think about that? It goes right into what we were talking about earlier about being isolated. Javan, what do you think, man?
I mean, that's definitely true. I think for so many people that don't have a support system from the time they're young, the reason why we see kind of dependencies upon things that are material or maybe something like smoking, drinking, like you're talking about later in life, is because that's their only escape from the constant torment or the constant like belligerent comments of other people that they just feel like they can run to something that finally numbs them of that pain. And it's sad, man, because to think that people don't try to encourage others from a young age, where they just tell them things like, oh, you're worthless, you're so stupid, there's no way you don't understand how to do that.
Right.
Eventually that turns into who you identify as from a really young age. And if you don't learn the truths about yourself, like if we don't find our identity in Christ and understand that we are loved, we are his children, and that we're made in the image of God, then a lot of people just end up kind of spiraling that to much greater effects later in their life. And it's just something that's terrible. So you need to surround yourself with people that are going to uplift you and people that are going to really help you through processes that you're comfortable sharing with them. And that's such another big thing too, is if you can't trust somebody, then how are you ever really going to be close with them? And I think for friends especially, but also for family members, it's really hard for people to kind of be willing to disassociate from people that they feel that they're indebted to in some way, whether that be their father, their mother, their sister, their uncle, their grandparent, who in the past has really hurt them, but they almost feel indebted because of the relationship that they carry by blood to this person, that they won't free themselves of that harmful relationship, or like they'll continue to run back to it as just thinking that this is the only way that I'll ever know this situation and it can't get any better. So yeah, definitely. I think relationships that help build each other up and also challenge each other on things that we might struggle or fail with is so important. And it's something that every person needs in their lives. And it's the reason why we can have healthy family and healthy friend groups and things like that. So
been encouraging to watch you, man, like with your friend group, because that's a big marker is when you leave high school and the people you've been around are kind of like, that's who's in your circle. And now you've chosen to go a specific place, so to a specific university, and then you now choose which friends that you're going to spend life with from there. Now, you obviously have some of your previous friends, and you decided whether or not to spend more time with them. But it's an interesting thing as you navigate that situation. You're at one of those key pieces where it's like, hey, who am I going to be around? Who am my friend group here? It's a big deal.
Yeah, and I mean, right now it kind of feels like everything's not really permanent, just because there is so much opportunity kind of outside of college, and depending on whether or not I even stay in the country, which is like a whole different thing. Right, sure. You might never see this group of people ever again, but at least they were in your life for a season. And I think no matter who it is, them being in your life at all will have some meaningful impact to you, whether that be a single conversation you had, whether it be something you learned kind of that you want to mirror in your own behavior from watching them, or something that you don't want to mirror from watching them. Right. Every person that you meet in your life serves a purpose. So I treat it with intentionality, and I think it's really important to do.
It's good. Angus?
Yeah, I think that as much as it is important that you establish those relationships, that the working definition from which you operate, what is the function of those people? Is it just to make you happy, or is it to make you better? Kind of like in marriage, because you don't want you don't want a bunch of yes men just following you around, because you end up in more trouble sometimes. Sure. Because you follow your own way and realize that people said yes the whole way. Right. And so having people that the role that they fill is to speak life, and to speak truth in those difficult situations, and being willing to allow that, because again, as Americans, we like to set our own path and we don't like a lot of challenges to that. And so having people that you hold close enough that can challenge that, that sovereignty that you hold over yourself.
Yeah, that's good.
I think is really important. And if you've got the right attitude towards it, then it's more of you're upset if you didn't tell me the thing and you weren't willing to risk, some emotional capital for us to get better and for me to be better. And so you have to make sure that you've got the right definition so that you know how to pick the people around you.
That's good.
So
very good. It would be a challenge to all of us that we would be those that are intentional with our relationships around us, and that we would be those who have Christ follower friends, and also be intentional to reach out to our non-Christ follower friends as an example, and have those that speak life into us and not tear us down, but also be a person who speaks life and doesn't tear down. So like both and the way we act, and also to get out of those ruts, and also to be those who are walking in that community around us that will encourage us to dream big. All right, one word to leave the podcast. Angus.
Intentionality.
Okay. I say the exact same thing.
Javan.
I'll go relationships.
I'm gonna say conception. Thanks so much for being a part of the collective. We love you. Much love to you wherever you are.